Well, thank you very much for your patience. Good morning. I am Jim Amann, the former Speaker of the House. We are here today to talk about sex trafficking in Connecticut. We are also here to warn you that your daughters are the most popular new drug on the street. This was stated by Sergeant Detective Kelly O'Connell of the Boston Police Department's Human Trafficking Unit. And the sergeant refers to young girls as a price commodity among street gangs, organized crime, coercive boyfriends, and even manipulative husbands. Whoever they are, pimps can now advertise girls on the internet. And that has increased demand, and it avoids street arrests. It is attractive because it's simply a safer business model to apply by. Today, while we live in a country where a person is more likely to serve time selling marijuana than actually to selling a 14-year-old girl. Certainly is no more profitable crime than human trafficking. The financial gain for selling people for sex is unparalleled. If you compare the sex trafficking business model to someone selling drugs, the pimp basically knows that the drug dealer has to continually spend more cash as part of his earnings from selling drugs, and then to purchase a new supply as he makes sales. And he must also reinvest in the inventory to keep his supply available to all of his customers. The pimp does not have that problem. Unlike drug dealers, and also like a drug, which can be sold only once, the human body can be sold over and over again. And once a young girl is within his stable, he sells her to each John at 100% profit. Every single trick that they turn, 100% profit. There is no product inventory to restock because the pimp doesn't really sell young girls. They merely rent them out. The staggering fact in America is that 300,000 children are sex trafficked every year. I thank you for your patience this morning with my voice. And at this time, I'd like to introduce someone that's been a champion that I worked with on issues way back, Senator, I guess it was 1994, when we first started with Megan's bill. I think the year before was stalking. And we're so glad that you're with us today. We know how much you've been fighting hard for sex trafficking on this particular bill down in Washington here as an Attorney General. So next, Senator Blumenthal.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to have you back, Jim, in the Capitol. And I want to thank you and Jeff and Jerry Fox and all the leaders of this effort at the state level, and just pledge to you that I am working and have already begun reaching out to other members of the United States Senate who are dedicated to seeking a federal solution in partnership with states like Connecticut that will be at the forefront of this effort to stop the scourge of sex selling and human trafficking that makes use of the internet. We know from the work that we've done on Craigslist here in Connecticut, and as Attorney General, I helped to lead that effort around the country, and now we see it on Backpage and other sites where there may be a migration of these ads, that sex selling and human trafficking is very much alive and well on the internet. Unfortunately and tragically, it ensnares many young women and girls, and we need federal as well as state action to stop it. And anyone who says that it is a victimless crime is just plain wrong. It is a scourge that exploits and ruins lives of countless individuals, and we need to do everything possible to stop it. And that is why federal action, I think, is very much a part of what needs to be done, because obviously many of these schemes cross state lines. The ads reach people in different states using the internet. And I will pledge to you and members of the Connecticut General Assembly that I will be an active and strong partner in this effort. As I mentioned, I have begun reaching out on a very bipartisan basis. We have partners who are willing to be a part of this effort at the United States Senate level, and I'm very hopeful that we can make progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator. Now, Chairman Berger.
Thank you, Jim. This is all yours. Thank you, everyone, for coming to this press conference this morning, and thank you to all the individuals that are standing behind me for their commitment to this important cause. First of all, let me start by saying Happy St. Joseph's Day to everyone here in the General Assembly, and also to announce that Representative Fox would have wanted to be here this morning. He has some commitments with his law practice in Stamford. He, however, will be here for the 1 o'clock public hearing. It's important to note that the bill that we will hear today in Judiciary at 1 o'clock, House Bill 5504, supports legislation which makes publishers of escort advertisements criminally liable for exploitation of minors if the ads are found to promote sex trafficking schemes. Tied to this language of the legislation is a penalty, which creates a Class C felony charge if convicted. A Class C felony in the state of Connecticut is punishable by 1 to 10 years of imprisonment and/or up to a $10,000 fine. I again thank Jerry Fox for his support of this. Myself, other legislators have come forward. Speaker Amann, the architect of Megan's Law, Mr. Raymond Bichard, whose book, The Berlin Turnpike, A True Story of Human Trafficking in America, chronicles the commercial sex trade taking place along one of our state's best-known thoroughfares. We will also be hearing from a victim of sex trafficking who was sold in Connecticut via a published online escort advertisement. She will remain anonymous through this press conference today and will make public her name during the judiciary public hearing to take place at 1 o'clock. So again, thank you, Speaker Amann and others, for bringing this information to light. When we first met in reference to this in the conference room of the Judiciary Committee, I was quite frankly beyond shocked. And being a retired police officer in the city of Waterbury for 20 years, you see a lot. But the issue and the internet access that has grown not only on the social networking sites, but in newspapers throughout the state of Connecticut that advocate advertisements which allow this type of activity to take place. So the context of what we will do today in judiciary and hopefully moving forward a bill to be passed out of judiciary will target this sex trade scheme, its advertising components, and the penalties that will be associated with a conviction following this. So again, thank you for everyone for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, I'd like to have Ray Bichard come up and say a few words. He'll also be introducing two other special guests, and then we'll entertain questions. Ray Bichard is the author of the book, The Berlin Turnpike. Ray.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. As Jim Amann said, my name is Raymond Bichard, the author of The Berlin Turnpike, A True Story of Human Trafficking in America. As you've heard, it tells the story of a landmark federal trial that took place here in Connecticut, in Hartford actually, in 2007. The case of United States versus Dennis Paris provides a rare and detailed account of how a specific type of human trafficking called commercial sexual exploitation is thriving because it has left the street corners and entered our homes. Among other crimes, Dennis Paris was convicted of sex trafficking of a minor and is now serving a 30-year sentence in federal prison. One of the girls he victimized through his so-called escort service was 16 years old. Another of his victims, again sold to men in and around Hartford through his escort service, was just 14. During his trial, these girls courageously testified to the abuse, drug use, violence, degradation, and lifelong wounds that they suffered at the hands of Dennis Paris and the escort business. He ran throughout Connecticut for years. Now, along with the stories of these young girls, federal prosecutors also revealed the truth about the Hartford Advocate's escort advertisements. The Advocate, which is owned by the Tribune Company's Hartford Courant, was cited over 60 times during the trial as Paris's exclusive channel for selling his girls. The Advocate's escort section was the only thing Dennis Paris needed to find men willing to pay to have sex with his underage victims. Now, nearly 5 years after the trial in which the Department of Justice proved that the Advocate's escort advertisements often feature the commercial sexual exploitation of minors, the paper continues running dozens of these advertisements every week. And this Advocate, which has the back page ads directly in the back page here, listing dozens of these ads, let's see, right there, we picked up in this hallway right out here in the rack of the Legislative Office building. Now, the complicity surrounding human trafficking runs deep in Connecticut, and the Advocate is not alone in the marketing of flesh here. Backpage.com, a website owned by Village Voice Media, began running online escort ads in Connecticut last November. And a magazine published in Kensington called Extreme New England lists advertisements for escort services in several northeastern states and New York. It also features want ads, which continually look for new recruits for these organizations. Now, right now, Connecticut lawmakers have the opportunity to seriously address sex trafficking in Connecticut by passing House Bill 5504. And I congratulate Representatives Fox and Representative Berger for leading this important effort. The law will make publishers guilty of commercial sexual exploitation of minor if they run escort ads involving anyone under the age of 18. These escort agencies have been proven to be nothing but a front for those who are often guilty of the commercial sexual exploitation of minors and young adults. This legislation will protect the future of countless young people in Connecticut by reducing the demand for all those who seek to destroy their lives. Now, I want to introduce to you someone who I have known for nearly 4 years. She is the only expert on this topic that I've really ever met, but I'll let her tell her story. For now, why don't you come up? I'll stand next to you.
Good morning. Later today, I will be speaking in support of Bill 5504, an act concerning commercial sexual exploitation of a minor, a very important piece of legislation that I take very personally. I won't be telling you my name right now, but I can tell you who I am. I am a victim of human trafficking, who was sold through escort advertisements here in Connecticut. What happened to me, how it happened, is not unique. It is happening right now to girls all over Connecticut through the blatant advertising of escorts in some of our most respected and well-read newspapers and websites. Yet while these advertisements are in plain sight for everyone to see, the suffering and abuse that girls like me experience every day is hidden. No one sees what our pimps do to us, how they give us drugs to stay awake for days. Feed us just enough to keep us skinny and looking young. Tell us that making money for them by having sex with men is why we were put on this earth, and hit us for no reason. And no one knows what the men who buy us do to us, how they pay to use our bodies any way they like, how they humiliate and degrade our spirits, and how they shop for us in the newspaper or on their computer as though they were buying another cheap gadget that they need for their convenience. Today, I am so proud to stand with Representative Fox and Representative Berger as they take this courageous stand against the escort ads that led to me becoming a victim. I thank you both for introducing this important legislation, and there are many other girls like me who thank you as well.
Next, I'd like to introduce Deacon Arthur Miller. I'll let you tell them a little bit more about yourself and why you're here.
My name is Deacon Arthur Miller. I'm the director of the Office for Black Catholic Ministries in the Archdiocese of Hartford, but my other role is the national president of the Association of Black Catholic Administrators. As that president, and in that role, I can speak for the 3 million African American Catholics around this country. Most of us are descendants of slavery. 150 years ago, this nation fought against slavery. And yet you just heard a young girl who was sold into slavery. And every single one of us sitting in here have something to do with it. You can't turn your head. If you have not stood up, if you have not protested, then you are complicit with it, every single one of you. You are called to do something about it so that this young lady and other young ladies and other young boys aren't caught in this web. It becomes your responsibility. I'm standing up here now. When will you stand with us?
We'll open up to any questions. Ray, why don't you come up here? Deacon?
You said House Bill 5504 would hold publishers accountable for running ads for escorts for people under the age of 18, right? Is that my right? If I got that? Jeffrey?
Correct.
Jeffrey, you're the chair. Can you explain that for us?
Well, I guess my question is,
Yeah.
doesn't that kind of stop short? Under 8, so if you're over 18, it's okay to be sold into slavery.
Yeah, well, first of all, no. Secondly, the bill as it is drafted right now, and it is a proposed bill for public hearing, which can be amended and changed as we go through the legislative process. The current bill before us addresses minors, the exploitation of minors. That would be under 18. However, if debate moves the bill in a different direction, we can change change the language going forward.
Is there any legal issue in attaching criminal liability if they are not knowingly accepting ads for underage? I mean, there's obviously, with all these ads, there's always been kind of a wink and a nod, but that has been, a barrier at times to going after these publishers. So how do you get around that?
Yes, I think Ray would be appropriate to answer that.
Really, the intent here is that the publishers of the ads would have to get verification of the age of every person working for these escort agencies before they run the ads, which in effect would kill their motivation to continue running them.
So this would be enough to essentially
Shut down, you're hoping.
If I were a publisher of a newspaper and I had to get a verification of every one of those ads in the Hartford Advocate, of everyone working for those escort agencies, because if one of them does get arrested or caught or a victim is found and they're under 18, I'm going to jail. Yeah.
I wonder if the young woman could come to the microphone and explain to us, if you're able. I know this is stressful for you. Explain how old you were, how you were recruited, how you got involved in this escort business.
I was actually 23, turning 24. I wasn't a child. But how? Coercion. Just this was a means to an end. Another girl had, what's the word for it? Coerced me. It was just being fooled.
Are you from here in Connecticut?
Yes. Born and raised.
And this other girl made it sound like a different life than it actually was?
She was, she actually got like a finder's fee for me. She found me, said, oh, I know this guy, this friend of mine. She didn't put it out there, it was very vague. Oh, he runs this business and, in sales. And maybe he can help you out, get you back on your feet. And
Some tough financial straits at that point?
yes, yeah, I just lost my job and everything.
How long were you engaged in this enterprise?
I'm sorry, I won't be able to comment on that because it's still an investigation.
If you're going to give your name at a public hearing, I'm sorry, I'm confused. Why are you anonymous for an hour or so? You're standing here before the cameras.
Because I feel it'll be more powerful later on today.
So are you guys going to also include the phone company in this? In this bill, because I believe the yellow pages, they have escort ads too. So the president of the phone company could get arrested as well?
Why not? If they're soliciting young women under the age of 18, they should.
Does any other state have such a law, and has it withstood a court challenge?
The only other state we know of now is Washington State, and they've just passed it. And so we're really on the cutting edge, as Connecticut really always has been with what we call abolitionist issues. So Washington and Connecticut are the only ones addressing these in this manner right now.
So we don't know if this is constitutional. This seems to me could raise some First Amendment issues here. What do you think?
I don't think the First Amendment are protecting women being sold on the internet or in newspapers for sex. I'd really like to be involved in Supreme Court debate on that one. If we're talking about underage, not just women, but boys too, that are being sold for as sex slaves, period.
I'm reading through the bill. So you're saying if somebody relied on an oral or written representation of the age depicted in the advertisement, that's not a defense. But in the next paragraph, it says, an affirmative defense shall be that prior to publication, you made a reasonable bona fide attempt. First of all, I don't see that term defined in this legislation, so perhaps someone could tell me what that is. But then it goes on to say to a bona fide attempt to ascertain the true age of the person depicted in the advertisement by requiring the person depicted in the advertisement to produce a driver's license, marriage license, birth certificate, other government-issued or school-issued identity card. Couldn't any of those documents be forged?
Well, certainly.
But then there's another crime, so.
Certainly. I think,
Forgery? Is that what you're saying?
certainly. But I mean, again, the focus is certainly in any public hearing, and you've been around the building long enough to know, is to go through these bills line by line, scrutinize them, and hopefully it passes constitutional muster. If you remember back in Megan's Law, in 1995, when we fought for that particular piece of legislation, when we fought it, we had it up for 2 years. We were challenged by a pedophile. We were challenged by a pedophile in the Supreme Court, and we won. And we're very proud of that. And if we get challenged on this one here, if it takes us 1 or 100 years, let the challenge come forward. I think we're on the right side of this one.
Can Connecticut regulate out-of-state publishers on the internet? Is that possible, or do you need federal legislation?
A good example is Backpage.com, which, because of Senator Blumenthal's previous work against Craigslist, avoided having any Connecticut escort or adult listings on their Connecticut website until last November 10th, when they started and launched this escort section of their Connecticut site. 3 days later, Simsbury had their first prostitution arrest ever because of Backpage.com. So yes, you can, because they are advertising here specifically for this state. And they have a Connecticut listing, just as Craigslist did, with adult listings, with escort listings in them. So yes, absolutely.
Can you define what a reasonable bona fide attempt to ascertain the identities of these people is? What does that mean?
Again, we don't have the attorney that drafted that. What we give to the legislature as an idea or a concept or language can be changed. We are hoping that during the public hearing, some of our wonderful attorneys here in the building will be able to clarify that, but I can't do that right now.
To what extent is this seen as a real solution, or is it something that's going to drive it further underground? I mean, it seems every time, for every reform, there's a reaction sometimes, whether it would be to moving it to Facebook, moving it to other forms of social media. Does somebody want to address that?
You sure, Murray? Oops.
I've actually thought about this, and by shutting these down, it actually forces men to speak among themselves, word of mouth. So it actually becomes a little bit more open. And as that does that, it's like the telephone game. People start hearing about it through word of mouth. It's going to bring it more to light.
And if we have to chase that tail, we have to continue to do it, we will. Sometimes we catch it, sometimes we don't, but we'll continue to do it as long as it takes. It could be your daughters. She's not the only victim. There are 300,000 American kids a year. 300,000. They're not from Brazil or from India or from Japan or China. They're right here in America. Yes, Mark, I'm sorry.
We're late. I wonder if you could, again, just give us a nuts and bolts description of what this proposal is going to do.
Okay. Well, I've, in the previous, when I was up before, basically, the act is going to establish a crime of commercial sexual exploitation of a minor. under which a person may be guilty if such person knowingly publishes, disseminates, or displays an advertisement for a commercial sex act which is to take place in this state and includes the depiction of a minor without first ascertaining the age of that person. So basically, and it establishes the criminal penalty of a Class C felony, which is 1 to 10 years imprisonment and/or up to $10,000 in a fine.
It depicts in an advertisement
That's correct.
someone who looks youthful.
Yeah, well, it could be a description, and don't forget now, you're also dealing with a Facebook social media, which there are photos and accompanying dialogue, and also print advertising.
I don't read these ads, so you're going to have to help me a little bit here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I have the expert here. Actually, we saw a presentation of this that was portrayed on Facebook and other social networking sites, and actually is in the print media right before us, and you can get it right in the hallway of the LOB and other locations. It's a free advertisement, so maybe they can address that specifically for you.
What sort of descriptions are we specifically talking about here?
As I said, this copy of The Advocate was pulled right from the hallway here. Sasha and Melina, 2 girl specials, petite and busty. Come indulge in all your fetishes and desires. Girlfriend experience and Greek available. Toys available. Pretty woman, oh, here's one. Spend quality time with a 18-year-old hottie. Gorgeous Brazilian, petite and busty. Amanda, and it's a local phone number. Available just for you, Asian Jamaican girl. Lovable ladies, very busy upscale company. Prompt, clean, discreet. Guaranteed key to your release.
One of those specifically mentioned an age.
Yeah. But they're all under massage and escort ads, a section specifically labeled that way. Dozens of them.
Only the age is they
don't mention the wouldn't.
age because for a reason.
You certainly wouldn't mention the age. I got a 13-year-old girl that you're going to be having at your hotel in the next hour.
Right, well, that's how are you going to convict people of what you claim is going to be a violation of the law?
Because
That's what
we're
I'm not
trying-
able to get my hands
I
around.
think what we're first trying to do is make it difficult for, if they don't, they should be taking these ads down by themselves. That's number one. If you believe in the cause of helping our young women out there not being sold as sex slaves, we shouldn't even be having this conversation, Mark, quite frankly. We hope to God that they have the sense that it's just not a financial gain for the newspapers or for Facebook, because aren't they part of the pimping population if they're involved in it? It's a multi-million-dollar business. That's why these ads are being put into the newspaper. So let me... If someone is making money off a young girl who's selling her body for sex, and they are well aware of it, what would you call them? Upscale American citizens? If I had a newspaper that I knew that was involved in this, absolutely. If you're receiving money for underage girls that are being sex trafficked, absolutely. Absolutely.
Victimless crime. Could I ask the young lady to explain why that's not true? I mean, this is the argument that's made by many people, that it's a victimless crime.
I don't know of any girl that wanted to spend time with that man that gave her money for sex. I don't know any girl that wanted to go to that room. I don't know any girl that wanted to take her clothes off. I don't know any girl that didn't come back from a room and be like, oh yeah, that was great. I want to do it again. I don't know any girl that wanted to spend more than a minute or a second in that room. There's just no way. There's just no way. You're a victim every step through the way.
A part of the work that I do is with gangs and on the street. And I would ask you this. When you were 10 years old and someone sold you and you were ravaged by a crazy person, would you say it's a victimless crime? That's what we have to say to every single one of us. And if you walked by and you didn't see this, it's not that it isn't there. We have to open the eyes of those of us who are appalled by this. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not here. She's alive. She's real. This happens. What do we do to stop it? I grew up with a kid by the name of Emmett Till. He was a schoolmate of mine. He was murdered in 1955. It took 10 years before the Voting Rights Act was passed. If it takes 10 years, that's fine, because we're not going to stop. No matter what it is, no matter what the language, we will do what we have to do in order to stop this from happening.
Would you impose the same requirement on owners of what are called gentlemen clubs, or what we would colloquially call strip clubs? Should they also be required to produce
Well, they're already
verification of
criminally
age?
liable, actually under federal law. If they are employing someone under the age of 18 as a dancer in a strip club, say on the Berlin Turnpike, that is sex trafficking of a minor under federal law.
And it would be a violation of Connecticut state law as well.
Yes, it would.
Should they be subject to the same requirements, that anybody they hire produce a government document, and that they be required to keep that document on file, and if not?
I would say absolutely yes.
Okay.
I mean, certainly so. We know there's been underage girls taking their clothes off for men on the Berlin Turnpike and in other places in Connecticut. Often it's just window shopping for the trafficking that happens later on.
What about the hotels where these meetings take place on the Berlin Turnpike and other places?
Well, there's over 1,000 motel rooms still on the Berlin Turnpike, and that's just the Berlin Turnpike. There you get into, a very interesting part of the law whereby you could be making hotel proprietors enforcers of law. It's a difficult area to get into. There is a code of conduct that they can voluntarily sign on to, which was started by an organization called Child Prostitution, Pornography, and Trafficking, specifically for hotel operators. And yes, we would like to see all hotel operators in a state of Connecticut sign on to that code, from motels on the Berlin Turnpike to the gaming facilities here.
And you're asking great questions, because it shows you this issue can go on and on and on, and it's so widespread, and there's so many other aspects, and we're only talking about, right now, sex trafficking, not even human trafficking for employment, those sort of things.
Wouldn't it be more effective to get the IP addresses and go after the pimps themselves rather than the messengers? Aren't you shooting the messengers as opposed to, I don't know, requiring that they obtain valid contact information and then obtaining warrants to go after the pimps themselves?
It's a very good point, but as I said, unfortunately, when my voice was a little shot before in my testimony, is that the bottom line is that the reason why the gangs and organized crime are involved in this now, it's a safer avenue for them. They're almost hands off. It's it's anonymous. It's very difficult for law enforcement to pin it on a pimp versus if they were selling drugs. That's why it's becoming such a big avenue for them to get involved in now. It keeps them almost a step away from the law. And the truth is, you are more probably going to be arrested for marijuana charge than actually selling for a young girl underage for sex.
Priority of law enforcement?
I think they don't have the resources, just like in everything else. I mean, if you remember back in Megan's law years, we were appalled to find out that an average pedophile only spent 1.5 years in jail. And the reason being is nobody was paying attention to it. It was one of those things that everybody whispered about until we exposed it and realized how much was going on in pedophiles all over our nation. The resources started to come there. We're hoping that the same thing's going to happen here, but quite frankly, no. Their concentrations are on many other things. Again, that's why the pimps are more want to go that way, because they know the cops just don't have the resources to get involved and chase them on this.
So rather than spend resources on busting the pimps, you're going to bust the publishers who publish their ads?
I think-
We hope that the publishers have the human decency to voluntarily take things down. Again, let's concentrate that we are talking about, could be your daughter, your niece, that are being sold on as sex slaves through the newspapers and through Facebook. The other day, about 2 weeks ago, there was a story I think many of you ran about Facebook, another bill that I did about breastfeeding in public. Well, there was a group of women that were actually sharing their stories of breastfeeding their baby on Facebook. Some people got mad at it, and you know what they did? They pulled that down. Yet, we could show you within 3 minutes that they're advertising underage girls that are showing sexual acts on the Facebook, and they've done nothing about that. And the question I have is why?
I think in this room, or it might have been the one that corresponds to it across the hall, with the publisher of that newspaper, who is on a board decrying violence against women. Have you contacted Mr. Graziano? He's a community-involved guy. He's the publisher of The Advocate. I mean, or he's the big manager. Have you contacted him? Have you reached out to him?
We have tried through a number of channels. I have spoken directly to editors at The Advocate. Joss Mamish, the publisher of The Advocate, has made a statement saying we cooperate with law enforcement. I'm paraphrasing. I'll be giving his whole quote this afternoon at the public hearing. We have tried, and we have heard nothing.
Getting back to Danielle's question, if you're going after newspapers, websites, telephone companies, phone book publishers, why not include hotel owners? I mean, why, you know, if they're profiting from this, why shouldn't they be held to the same standards, Jim, that you want to hold publishers and website operators to?
Okay, it's in, and Paul, thanks for your questions. And certainly, again, as the speaker had stated, this opens up the debate and issues. And certainly part of, Paul, certainly we could do more with bills. And we'll look at that as we draft and move forward through the legislative process, as I had previously stated. But it also should be noted that in doing background for the drafting of this bill, I had spoke to many law enforcement agencies, Vice and Intelligence and State Police, Major Crime Task Force. They would like to have the tools available to them to be able to address this issue, which they see as very, very important, obviously, and widespread throughout the state of Connecticut. So law enforcement is asking us to provide them with additional tools. That is part of what this legislation does and it hopes to achieve.
They specifically ask you to do this. Did the state police, did anybody you talked to say, this is one of the things that we want you to do, this is one of the tools we need?
Law enforcement has said, and in speaking with them, specifically across the whole spectrum of Vice and Intelligence throughout the state of Connecticut, they say they need additional tools. This is a way to prevent a lot of the end result of what this advertising does and which they want to try to address. So yes, it becomes an important tool for their ability to be able to dig into this crime.
You for this type of legislation?
We have discussed this type of legislation and addressing advertisers, and we have discussed language similar to this, and we will hear some more at the public hearing today.
None of us is lawyers. Well, somebody might be a lawyer of the reporting team. I don't know, but it just seems like looking at it, that especially the ones that you read, Ray, would appear to be sufficiently vague as to not really be prosecutable under this law. They don't say, call now to have your way with a 16-year-old. It doesn't say that.
No, nor would they ever. However, the intent, remember, of the law is that these types of escort or similar type advertising, the person taking money to run these advertisements would have to verify the age of all those being advertised. Not for publication, but to verify their age.
Ray, how are any of the ads legal? Are they legitimate? How is any escort service legitimate even if those ages are verified? Prostitution is
Well, to talk about Mark's comment, they're just vague enough. You know, the advertising is just vague enough with some of those code words I showed you there. So they're just vague enough to make it seem like what some people refer to as a legitimate escort agency. You want to speak to legitimate escort agencies?
Yeah. That's like false. None of it's legitimate. You just don't call for a date. You don't. It's just known fact. Escort is prostitution. Bottom line.
Can you stay up there for just a second? How do you feel about the fact that if this law were in effect, if it had been in effect, it still wouldn't have protected you? How do you feel about that?
No, well, I was on Craigslist, but still, even if you take into fact I was 23, 24, my pimp advertised me as 19. The younger I was, the better. So you can only imagine, you know, the girls that were 19 or 18 or 16 and being said that they were 18 and 19.
I mean, this is a situation where, let's say this law was in effect, and your pimp provided your age accurately to a publisher, whether it was on the internet or the Hartford Advocate. It wouldn't have stopped. It wouldn't have stopped your
the girl that found
your
me?
slavery, right?
The girl that found me, she was underage. She was underage.
How many underage women did you encounter at this time?
I was very sheltered from other victims. So underage, 1 or 2. I had maybe just crossed, but maybe one other victim as well. So I was very, very well hidden and secluded.
You said you referred to an investigation that's still continuing. The pimp you're involved with, is he under investigation now? Is there a
I
pending?
can't answer any of that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
As far as we know, there is an investigation, and he is not incarcerated now.
He's not been charged though, but you believe he's under investigation, is that correct?
That's exactly correct.
I want to know how did you get out?
I was being reprimanded that day, punished, and I was made to walk the streets. He told me, you know, that I didn't appreciate who he was to me and what he had given me, and that I didn't understand what level I was at as an escort, and that he was going to teach me a lesson that day and show me how easy and how well I have it with him. And he took me to the host roll and made me walk the streets of Hartford to make the allotted money that I had to make that day. And the first vehicle I ever got into was an undercover.
Took you to the, what was the term you used?
Host roll,
And where is that?
Hartford,
Where specifically?
Weathersfield Ave.
Didn't know that.
Well, then you were arrested then.
Is that what broke the cycle, that you were picked up by an undercover cop?
Yeah, the judge, the judge probably saved my life.
What did he do?
She recognized that I wasn't just a prostitute on the street. I wasn't there doing it on my own. This wasn't voluntary. There are certain things that had happened in the courtroom and certain things that, part of my story, that she knew just weren't right. And she had sent me to a safe house.
That's your story in the book, The Berlin Turnpike?
Yes.
Did you were addicted at that time?
Yes. Yes.
To what? And you went to rehab, obviously.
Heroin.
What kind of men bought you? I'm just curious to know what kind of men. Are these family men? Are they professional men? Are they?
Fathers, sons, brothers, best friends, surgeons, engineers, politicians, businessmen, store owners, everything across the board.
Any politicians we might know?
Probably.
No comment.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind, if there's no more questions, could we just introduce ourselves quickly so they'll know who you are?
Thank you. Peggy Pisano from the Rape Crisis Center of Milford, a member of CONSACS, Connecticut Sexual Assault Crisis Services.
State Representative Larry Butler. Peter Wolfgang, Family Institute of Connecticut.
I'm Deborah Walsh. I'm with the Heartbeat Ensemble, a local activist theater company.
Deacon Arthur Miller, Director of the Office for Black Catholic Ministries.
Corrine Borg. I'm from Simsbury, and I will be testifying later.
Rich Laputra from the Stop Online Porn on Facebook campaign, and yes, I'm sorry, child porn on Facebook, and yes, there is plenty of child porn and pedophilia on Facebook today.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the time and the great questions.
Thank you very much.
Great job. Great job. Great job.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job.